My name is Ravi Chhatpar from Frog. I'm currently based in Shanghai, in China, where I've been for the last 5 years. I'm in the process of moving to Africa, which I'm very excited about. For 5 years, I've been thinking about innovation in a very different emerging market, in China, in Southeast Asia. We're global, but we're American in our roots. And a lot of the work that we're doing now is being profoundly impacted by the work that we're doing in emerging markets. And so what I'd like to do today is share with you some of what we've learned from our work around the world about how that impacts how we think about mobile innovation, and then talk to you about what I hope to get out of what we're studying and what we're trying to do in Africa. We are a global innovation firm. We work with many clients around the world to conceptualize and bring to life all types of products and services that make a difference in people's lives. Our motto is love what you make, and that really captures the spirit of Frog. We view ourselves as inventors and as tinkerers. We like to conceptualize ideas, but even though the sexy part is coming up with the ideas, we make a lot of effort in making it real. So design, development, go-to-market strategy, operationalizing a product. So all of that is as important as the upfront identification of the ideas. So we've actually been around for over 40 years. We're most known for the work that we've done in the early days with companies like Apple, who we worked with for over 15 years. Many of our clients are some of the largest multinationals, companies like GE, like Intel, like Disney, like Microsoft. So a lot of the work that we've done, or that we're most known for, is bringing to life products and services for global multinationals. Now, a lot of this is changing, and I think what's interesting is the work we're doing with these companies, even though it may be targeting Western markets, is being profoundly influenced by what we're learning in emerging markets. Just to give you just a sense of our size, so we're actually pretty large as far as innovation consultancies go. We're about 1,600 people company-wide. As I mentioned, I'm based in Shanghai right now, but this team is a very interdisciplinary team. So design is at our core, but research, strategy, technology, engineering, writing, dreaming, all of that is really part of the disciplines that make up Frog. So what I first want to do is, before we talk about the methodologies that we're using, I really want to give you a sense of how we think about the future of mobile, because this in some ways sets the stage or sets the foundation for how we view the world and how we think about innovation in the world. There are really 5 phenomenon that we've found that are influencing how we think about innovation. First is the notion of the physical product itself that is changing. It used to be very simple. The phone is a device that is optimized for speaking, right? It has a handset, it has a microphone, it has a speaker, and it's meant for voice communications. I think we all recognize right now that the phone is actually something much more complex. It plays games, it allows you to check the weather, it allows you to follow sports, it allows you to keep up to date with your social networks. And what we're finding is that the phone itself, the device itself, is no longer matters. In fact, we have tablets, we have small tablets, we have smartphones, we have feature phones, and all of these essentially are windows into a much richer software experience that is really what we look for when we think about the phone. What's happening here is that the physical object itself is losing its functional identity. And this is actually quite an interesting phenomenon, because in the past it used to be that people affix meaning to an actual physical object. Now we're finding that that meaning is instead being affixed to much more of a nebulous, much more of an abstract concept of an experience that takes place over a series of windows that may be your laptop at home, your laptop at work, your tablet computer when you're commuting, your cell phone when you're sitting at home. Right? The second phenomenon that's quite interesting is that the notion of identity is changing fundamentally. It used to be that I just have one identity to manage, but nowadays we're finding that people are actively curating multiple forms of identity at the same time. Right? So we all know my first life, here I am acting silly somewhere, and then my second life is what I'm curating on Facebook. right, or on Twitter, or on a variety of additional social networks. And increasingly, people are, of course, managing multiple identities. And it's interesting to see how these identities actually clash. Here's a somewhat humorous take on the subject. This is an advertisement done by Coca-Cola. And it's a somewhat cute take on a guy who is interacting in his everyday life with the various avatars and personalities that exist in his virtual life. And this is really getting at that notion that we're seeing here of digital and virtual and physical lives colliding and intersecting. The third phenomenon that is really impacting mobile itself is in the nature of the human-computer interface. Now, what's interesting here is the advancements in hardware technology over the last several years. It started off with touch, then moved into accelerometer-based interactions, such as with the Wii. And now we see all types of impressive interactions, for example, Microsoft Kinect, that lets us essentially interact with the digital side in very new ways. In this example, for example, you see someone who is actually putting a piece of paper through the TV, taking advantage of gestural technologies. Voice recognition, of course, we know with the iPhone, latest iPhone and Siri. What's interesting about all of this is, while execution may always be challenging and there may be mistakes that are made, in reality, these trends are absolutely going to be the future because they represent one lower barrier, or decrease an increase in the degrees of freedom, an increase in intuitiveness, and a lowering of the barriers between the human and the technology itself. The fourth phenomenon that's fascinating here is that the computing experience is no longer tied to the computer itself. Right? It used to be that the laptop held the software and all of the pixels that represented the complete experience. And now, of course, we know things like Google Maps or Google Earth, where the power of the experience, the reason it's so compelling, is actually because of the data that sits on the cloud. Right? So increasingly, we're finding that the richest experiences out there are actually not the ones that we have control over, but they're the ones where the data is actually somewhere different. And of course, as we start seeing the prevalence of sensor networks all over the world that are providing data about all types of additional, whether it's traffic, whether it's about weather, whether it's about anything else in the world that we don't normally have control over, these sensor networks are also becoming more plugged in to how we think about the world. And finally, the fifth phenomenon I want to point out is that the things themselves are actually activating. So we see examples of services like Amazon Remembers, where you can just take a picture of anything, and then cloud power will determine what you're looking at, save it, and give you recommendations on what to buy. Similarly, that's a form of passive response by the environment, but we see more active responses as well. This is Vitality's Glow Cap, which essentially uses RFID technology to let you know when you've run out of drugs, when you need to change your prescription or go visit a doctor. Right? And of course, we know that Google is trying very actively to position Android as the operating system that will power the Internet of Things. Right? So why do I tell you all of these phenomena? It is really to what we're kind of getting at. If you extrapolate where this takes us, it's a vision that looks something like this. If you imagine the fantasy, you're going to a local restaurant, and when you order your food, you're somehow automatically able to get information about what you're eating, how that impacts your diet, how that impacts your routine, your health routine that you've set up, and whether it's a good thing to be doing to be eating a burger when you've just been on a healthy diet for the last month. Then you go walk down the street, you see someone wearing something that you like. You immediately can determine what that is, where it can be purchased. You could purchase it online and have it delivered at the doorstep by the time you get home. And then you go to a bar to go meet your friends, and you actually somehow get to figure out who this girl is that you're talking to, figure out what her interests are, who her friends are, whether there's real compatibility, and then it just simplifies the dating game. Now, obviously, this is a